We are back with another week of ReZero after that momentous episode last week, and this episode gives us the best animated sequence in the entire series. The episode opens up with our first glimpse of the Lei Kaito's fight, as we see the immediate follow-up of the water dragons leaping out and tearing into Lei. Felt is impressed with what Otto pulled off, and the white dragon scales are all very clearly motivated for battle by Subaru's speech, something Felt can't deny being moved by either, thanks to Wrath's authority. Otto asks how Felt ended up here, and she says that she and Gaston were coming back to the inn to retrieve a secret powerful meteor as Lei breaks free from the mess of water dragons. Otto asks how reliable this meteor is, and Felt says that Old Man Rom said Reinhard wouldn't be unscathed if he took a hit, giving Otto extreme confidence. He tells her to go and that they will hold off Lei while she retrieves it, as he approaches, telling Otto he is now worthy of a spot on their plate. Felt throws her sword right at Lei, which he catches and uses to try and stab Gaston, but the sword breaks on impact, revealing how tough Gaston truly is, and we hear about something known as the flow method, which is something that Gaston is making use of, which is basically just a technique fighters use to circulate mana throughout their body to strengthen it. Felt flees, leaving Otto, the White Dragon Scales, and Gaston to hold off Lei Kaitos long enough for her to return with this meteor. With Felt gone, Lei remarks how with her gone, there are now only 3 that Rui would like. Just who Rui is, we aren't entirely sure, as Otto wonders, he's had to fight more than the average grunt this past year, what sort of merchant does that make him? We cut back to the fight that started 3 episodes ago now, and we haven't seen for a while, but we finally get that follow-up to Al versus Capella. We see Capella laughing at Al, asking where he stole that one-liner from, and calling him a total virgin. Al reiterates that he doesn't really feel like doing this today, and now he's in a bad mood. But Capella says that he's contradicting himself. He doesn't want to be here, but he's here, and he's the one who caused this. Al disagrees, obviously, saying everything is their fault. She, however, doubts that. Not everything that happened in this city is their fault, and the 2 lock eyes in an ominous silence before Al responds, "You trying to say something?" Capella remarks that there's an asshole who keeps doing annoying things, like opening the floodgates, asking if his actions keep him up at night. Al cracks his neck. No idea what you're talking about. And Capella tells him there's no reason to hold anything back. It could be their little secret, as she then accuses him of killing the Council of 10. All he replies with is that in chaotic situations, unfortunate things can happen, so we finally get, well, not explicit confirmation, but maybe soft confirmation that Aldebaran is probably the one responsible for opening the floodgates and the one who killed the Council of 10. Both actions that seem very odd at first, but have their own twisted versions of helping the team. Let me know what you guys think of this revelation in the comments below. Aldebaran says that Capella is a lot different from the Archbishop types he knows, and she asks which one he knows, asking if his parents ever told him to be careful choosing his friends. He replies he was the one parents warned their kids about, as Capella slowly transforms her body, slowly changing into Priscilla, remarking how she is adjusting based on his reactions. Voices, gestures, pauses, and speech, eyeline based on the angle of his neck, attitude, personality, nature, all things that bleed into conversation and inform how she should transform herself, even against someone wearing a helmet. Al says he doesn't love or hate her. Actually, that was a lie. She's disgusting, so yeah, he hates her. It hurts to even look at her. She transforms her arm into a giant's wolf's head, and Al barely dodges it before barely dodging more and more attacks, calling in advance where the attack is coming from. He uses Donut to dodge another attack, revealing his affinity for earth magic. He lunges towards her, chopping her head off, as her decapitated head rains blood around the room. He charges in again, carving the heart out of her body and casts Aldona to detonate the remains. He thinks that ought to be enough, until she speaks up again. Capella praises him for his manliness because he isn't backing down, asking if he's a super tryhard type, as he wordlessly raised his sword again. The princess told him to take care of things. A T-1000 wannabe is terrifying, but he's more scared of what would happen if he upset her. As she transforms again, muttering, his stars today were just the worst. We then switch to the main event of the episode, which is Garfiel versus Kurgan, and we also get some interesting exposition about the nation of Wallachia, and about how demi-humans are persecuted all around the world, but Wallachia is a place where they were able to find some semblance of, some footing there. Specifically the novels, I'm not exactly sure if this was in the anime yet, but the 8 Arms tribe specifically was seen as a lesser tribe because they had 8 arms until Kurgan rose up and became this all-powerful, basically legend in Wallachia. We see Garfiel still getting his ass beat, getting at least one good attack in before they both collapse into the waterway. As he coughs up water, he quickly realizes he's in a shelter, as his little brother calls out to him, causing his focus to waver even more. Everyone in the shelter looks at him with unease, wariness, fear, and rebelliousness. Garf's heart was filled with unneeded sentiment, thinking about how this boy was in the position he wishes he was in with his mom, as Kurgan enters the shelter. For every attack Garf could unleash, his opponent would answer with 8. That overwhelming disparity in fighting strength lit a fire in his heart. All of the introspection and monologue was cut from this fight in the anime, and I would normally save this for the cut content section. However, without this, the fight's a lot worse, so hopefully you just stick around and listen. I'm just going to read it basically verbatim from the light novel. There was more unneeded sentiment, but this situation was oddly satisfying for Garfiel. He had been stuck watching events go by while a sense of powerlessness had stolen so many things out of his hands. His heart had been stripped bare, and he had been forced to endure the bitter taste of his own weakness time and time again in the city. It was Kurgan who reignited his spirit, which had been so worn down and shriveled. The Eight Arms was facing him with weapons out, and that recognition from someone so legendary meant the world to Garfiel. He wished to fight Garfiel as a fellow warrior, and feeling that recognition from the Eight Arms, Garfiel was ready to fight. He told the people of the shelter to run, but his brother called him Gorgeous Tiger over and over again. That was the name of the Golden Tiger, the strongest tiger, the tiger that Garfield Tinsel looked up to. As the people of the shelter called out for him to not lose, for him to win, and not a single person chose to flee from the duel. He apologizes to Kurgan, saying it's a bit too noisy for a duel. He doesn't respond, and he apologizes again for causing him trouble. He'll give those kids a good talking to after. Kurgan sits in silence yet again. Garfiel refers to himself as the ultimate shield before correcting himself. He is Garfield Tinsel, the Gorgeous Tiger. I pointed this out in the earlier episode videos, but Garfield would call himself a different name after facing a lot of personal shame at Pristella, but here and now, he merges the both of them. Gorgeous Tiger, the name he put so much faith into for those kids to hear, the name that holds the expectations of being the strongest tiger, and combines it with the name Garfield Tinsel, the boy who was so afraid of the outside world and so afraid of defeat. As the Gorgeous Tiger and the Eight Arms charge at one another, dealing with each arm one by one, he gives up his arms to block. In that brief moment, he could still hear the voices, the shouts from his brother and sister, and from the rest of the onlookers. Sound died off, color faded, and every last unnecessary thing disappeared from his field of view. He reached perfect focus, and all that remained was Kurgan. Okay, there was still a little room for sentimentality. He saw Subaru, Ram, Mimi, and Frederica. Ryuzu was there, and so was Amelia. Otto appeared, and he even saw that asshole Roswell. There was Beatrice and Petra and everyone from the sanctuary, and he was with his mother, and his newfound siblings. During the sanctuary, he learned of his own weakness. When he learned how big the world really was, he could not help wondering if he had become weaker than he had been before leaving the sanctuary. As a result of trying to hold on to more things, had he become weaker? That couldn't possibly be true. If it was true, what was he living for? He had to become stronger to protect all of them. The root of all of Garfield's worries suddenly faded away. With a roar, Garf opened his mouth wide and tore into Kurgan's neck. Falling to the floor, he spit out a hunk of flesh he had torn away. Kurgan turned to Garfield, crossing his 8 arms before him, before finally uttering the only word he would ever say. Magnificent. His body then suddenly collapsed, transforming into a mound of ash, returning to death. This episode has the best animated section of ReZero ever. It's not probably, it just is the best animated. Garf and Kurgan hit animation heights some series only ever get to dream of, and I'm extremely grateful for the minute-long cut we got from Vincent Chancellor here, and I would really love to see his work on the season again because it was unbelievable. Outside of animation, this fight was severely lacking this desperate struggle that Garfield versus Kurgan was in the novels, how he has to deal with every single hit individually, and how, they all pretty much beat his ass. And unfortunately, the fight in the anime just feels like it kind of comes and goes, as all of the inner monologue and self-doubt from Garfield is entirely gone. Garfield versus Kurgan is a great fight, and if anything was going to get this animation treatment, well, I guess this would be the one. I just wish the narrative of the fight wasn't thrown out the window alongside it. It feels strange to be this disappointed because, holy shit, that sequence, but there's more to an adaptation than just the animation. The fact that I felt like I had to read all the narration that existed for Garfield's character for this fight speaks volumes. I really hope this means that Vincent does come back and work on ReZero again, because everything I see from him is fantastic, and hopefully this also gets some other very skilled animators interested in working on the series. My main hope is that none of Vincent's work was reined in by scheduling or anything like that, so that other creatives look over and see what he was capable of doing on this team, and they want a piece of that. Hopefully this is a door open for the future of ReZero animation. In terms of cut content, besides the Mountains of Garfield inner monologue, which I already touched on in the episode section, however I would recommend going back and reading this chapter in volume 20 if you have the time, there are a couple of more things not touched on in this episode. When Garfield breaks out of the water into the shelter, in the novels, there's an entire section about Garfield drowning as the water around them turns red from their blood. He thinks about how he's in a bad spot because Kurgan is undead, meaning he doesn't have to worry about breathing underwater, yet we see Kurgan break himself and Garfield out of the water. This further ties into the narration we get about Kurgan acknowledging Garfield, because this is him explicitly sparing him so that they continue their duel. Although it wasn't technically cut per se, it's definitely going to be lost on a lot of people because of the visual noise of the final cut of Garf versus Kurgan. Garfield did in fact have a winning strategy in this fight. That arm wound Garfield causes is what ends up contributing to his victory. He takes advantage of Kurgan being an undead, meaning he does not react to pain. Because of this, as Kurgan is swinging all 8 of his arms, as he does, Garfiel spares himself the final hit by completely severing his final arm that has the wound. With all 8 attacks survived, Garfiel leaps forward and bites into his neck, basically ripping it apart, which is sort of visible at the end of the fight in the anime. Last but not least is something that we can technically reintegrate into episode 15 because Al vs. Capella is not over yet. If you want to wait and see if this is reintegrated and don't want to be quote-unquote spoiled, then you could stop the video here. This is one of those pieces of cut content that, by virtue of me talking about it in this video, will naturally lead you to think it's important and will make you start drawing conclusions. After Al cuts Capella's head off, in the novels, there's a massive shower of blood that Al very confidently steps through to Eldona and blow up her body. When she's regenerating, she points out how he saw what her blood did to Subaru and Krush, yet he stepped through it so confidently. He tells her to stop bluffing him, and he already tried dodging it once, but it didn't work out. She has no idea what he's talking about, saying she didn't see him dodge anything, and he responds that he's talking about a time that she wouldn't know about, before the fight continues as normal. I think you probably understand that there are some pretty strong implications here from Aldebaran, specifically sounding like he is also a looper like Subaru. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below, as that will mark the end of this episode video. Just 3 episodes left of the season. Let's see how the rest of it goes, and hopefully you guys are enjoying it. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe for more. You can also check the description down below to become a member, which gives you benefits like early videos, membership badges, and cool custom emotes. You can join the Discord where we talk about Re:Zero, Kagurabachi, Jujutsu Kaisen, and all kind of stuff. Additionally, you can go to the channel store and pick up some awesome stickers made by our channel artist, so you can carry the power of Garfiel with you on your water bottle. That's about it though. Thank you for watching. See ya.